Right, we're going to do some quick bases for the command squad that we've just painted up. Still got a bit of work to do on the gold. We've only got the base colour on the gold so far, but we're going to, just to change it up, get the bases done. Now I'm going with quite a dark look, so here's the base that we did for Eidolon. Ruined Dreadnought on there. It's quite dark, quite rusty. Want to go with the same sort of theme across the army, a little bit different to the finish that most people do for Emperor's Children, the sandy colour. I just wanted to get away from that one because it seems the common choice, and also my Thousand Sons already have sandy bases, so just a bit of a change. Now I've already primed these, so this is just a gravel first of all, just a gravel that we've put on the base, primed it with a Chaos Black. Then we've gone over that, just to save some time with an airbrush, but you can do it with a normal brush. Just gone over with some Eshin Grey. We're going to use Dawnstone to dry brush some highlight on there, and then we're going to use some weathering powders to bring in some colour. I've still got a load of the old Forge World weathering powders. They last forever. I've also got some Cromlech weathering powders as well. So I use quite a few different brands. Just find ones that you like working with, that you like the colours of. Plenty of different brands out there, but let's get started. So always give your paints a little shake. Now I do water my paints down in the pots, just saves time and effort. I find it just is easier. Now some people might be against that because, well, naturally the paints are wetter, so for things like dry brushing and stuff, it does just make a little bit more drying time on your brush. Now always have something that you can use to just get the excess paint off your dry brush. Today I'm using the Golden Maple dry brushes. I was actually sent a set of brushes from Golden Maple, so just giving those a little go, see what they're like compared to the Artis Opus that I normally use. They're a lot cheaper. It's whether or not you can tell that they're a lot cheaper in terms of usage and lifespan. They seem nice quality out of the box, but we'll see how they go over a period of time. So I'm just giving quite a liberal dry brush of Dawnstone because we're going to darken this, darken it down with all the powders that we're going to use from Forge World and Cromlech. So as I say, just quite liberal dry brush of Dawnstone, bring the colour up, just pick out all the texture on the base. I am keeping quite a lot of paint on my, I say dry brush, it's more of a wet brush in this situation, just because we're keeping quite a lot of paint on here because we're going in with quite a heavy coat. Try and change directions with your dry brush when you're doing things like gravel, just so that you get an even pick out of detail on the bases. You'll see there, the first three there, we've done a little coat of the Dawnstone. You see the last two are still quite dark. You see the difference in detail starting to pick out. Remember, I'm not going for a particular sort of planetary theme on these or anything like that. I just want a nice dark, base that we can kind of say is anywhere. I play on a lot of different boards, so I don't want to be tied down to my army looking out of place on different boards. So there we go. So nice easy coat of Dawnstone on there. Now if you want to, you could go a step further. You could use something like Utherian Grey, Ulthuan, God knows how we say it, grey to pick out even more of a highlight on the top, but I want to keep these quite dark. So we're going to move on to some weathering powders. This is the messy part. Now, if you haven't used weathering powders before, just a word of advice. Put something down so that you can just screw it up and throw it in the bin, because weathering powders will get on everything, they will stain everything. Just try and keep your area clean. This is an easy way to do it, just by putting down a bit of kitchen roll or an old rag that you can chuck in a washing machine. I also just use really cheap old brushes, because the state of the brushes, where I'm constantly pushing the powders into things, they just get ruined. Get quite a liberal amount on your brush there, and we're just going to randomly start kind of pushing powders into areas on the bases, just to bring in some colours, and it gives a bit of a different texture. There's a very matte look to weathering powders. Now, with the weathering powders, a lot of people will use fixers and things like that. I'm not going to use fixers on these. I put a very light coat of matte varnish on my models, which does hold this in place a bit, but I don't use a fixing liquid for the powders. Realistically, the tops of the bases are not part of it that gets touched a lot by fingers, so you shouldn't have an issue. You see I'm just randomly plopping bits of this on, and then once you've got that on there, just give it all a tap off, and you see all the excess is on my mat, so it won't be going on my work area. So just chop between some different colours. I've got like a light sand sort of next, so just brings in a variant, and when you kind of push them in together, they blend really well, so it's a nice little touch to just get a different layering to your bases. It's very easy, very quick. It's a bit of a cheap way to do bases, but it has a good finish to it, a good look at the end. So I'm trying to go with a bit of a higher look, a higher standard on my Emperor's Children compared to my Thousand Sons. My Thousand Sons are kind of my gaming army. They are painted quickly with a candy finish. These Emperor's Children have actually gone with a matte finish on them, added in some line highlighting and things like that I didn't bother with on my Thousand Sons. And you see already with these, we're starting to really bring the tone down on these bases by having these different burnt oranges, rust colours, sand colours, and again, just tap them off. And you start to see the different finishes on these. We've done the earth. Still leave some of your original grey showing, and you've just got a good mixture of what's going on the bases. Okay. You then just get a bit of a kitchen roll, your finger, whatever you want to use for it. You just take off the excess powder around the edges. Sometimes it's easier if you've got something damp that you can do that with. I'm not too bothered about getting on my fingers, I'll just wash it off afterwards. So just try not to get it, as I say, on your clothes, on if you don't have a mat down on the floor, any carpet, anything like that, because it will stain fabrics quite a lot. There you have, really quick and easy. different looks, different textures. And then what we'll do is we'll just put this to one side. As I say, nice to have a little bit of kitchen roll like that. Roll it up and you can just throw it in the bin. You've not got any of that excess powder anyway. Now next step, get some black paint. Doesn't matter what black paint. I've got a barren black here, just easy paint that I've got to hand. Grab yourself a decent sized brush. Here again, I'm just using some golden maple brushes just to try these out, see what they're like, and kind of run with if we're going to stay with the Artisopus brushes or not. Now, where's a 2? There we go. So I go with something like a 2 on this just because it's a good size to get round the base in one go. Get quite a nice amount of paint on the base, on the brush. This is going to take a couple of coats, but you just literally just take the edge of the brush all the way around the edge of the base. I go from underneath, just so that then the top of your brush isn't going onto the top of the base. Go, and then once that's dry we'll do a second coat on there, but with the first coat that gives you a general idea. And there we have some nice bases done, ready for some grass tufts, ready for the model to sit on them. But it's a nice base with a bit of texture, a bit of colour, and the colours will contrast, which is the main thing with the models that we're going for, the command squad. So this dude, for example, is going to contrast quite nicely with the colours on that base. Thanks for watching, guys. Cheers.